Hello, everyone. It is Suzanne Hart. How are you doing? Just going to wait a moment for some people to join. Today, I'll be talking about acceptance, something that I think we all are required to do. So we're just seeing who is joining. Give it a moment. Give it a second. It is right on 7. I see Taria has joined. Hi, Taria. How are you? Good to see you. Tree, I'm going to ask you while we're waiting for others to join, when you hear the word acceptance, what does that mean for you? What does acceptance mean? Let's see. So we're just giving it a minute before we start. My name is Suzanne Hart. I'm happy to see you too. I trust you're well, and I trust you're having great weather wherever you are right now. I know you're back in North America instead of that beautiful island that you were spending some time on. So welcome back. Let's see what else we've got. So as we wait for people to join, if you're listening and you are joining us, this is another one of the Fit, Fab, and Fulfill Mindset Mastery Facebook Lives. This is where we talk about how we master ourselves with different principles, right? So as you listen, if you're listening and you think, oh my goodness, this is something that someone should hear about, definitely share. Oh, Taria says, being okay with myself where I am and also with others where they are. I love that. So that's her definition of acceptance. Hey, Dawn, how are you? Welcome, hon. It's been a while. Dawn, what I'm asking is if our topic today is acceptance. I'm curious as people jump on, what exactly does acceptance mean to you when you hear it? It is something I know I've struggled with in the past, and totally kind of, you know, I'm the person that streams against the current at times because I like to control things. I like to have things go my way. So we are just asking people as they join, what does acceptance mean to you? So if you're joining and you're hearing this topic and it resonates with you, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I have a friend. This would be great for my people on my page, people in my group. Feel free to share, because really wanting to share this information, and commitment is to add value. Commitment is to assist people in really kind of, you know, learning new principles. So I'm gonna jump in and start talking a little bit about what we have planned today. And this topic is for the person who might be the perfectionist, the person who may not like change, the person who, when change happens in your world, it creates a level of anxiety. So one of the questions I asked earlier this week is when change happens, or something new comes up, or something unexpected comes up, what do you do? What do you do? And I also started talking and asking people, and you know, so a lot of people they avoid. That's one way of dealing with it. We just avoid. Of some people, they will procrastinate. You know, so they'll say, you know what, I'll get to it later. I'll get to it later. I'll get to it later. Just totally putting it off. There are planners, And I know there's some people that are they're planning and planning and planning and planning, but they never actually take action. And planning is for some people a beautiful way of procrastinating. It makes you feel busy and productive. It makes you feel like you're doing stuff, but actually you're still kind of procrastinating or avoiding. For some people, it just brings up a lot of anxiety, and they freeze. And although they want to act, change just brings up a lot of anxiety. And those tend to be the people who like to know what's happening, who like to have the answer. Dawn is saying acceptance is allowing. I love it. Replacing resistance, being open to the possibility. Ooh, those are good. We're going to talk about all of those. I love it, Dawn. Thank you. Right. So some people they'll just it just creates a lot of anxiety, and then there's the people who accept. They just fall into acceptance, and they take action. I'm kind of an accept, plan, take action type of girl, or I'm an accept and action. And sometimes I take action without thinking, and I got to rewind and then plan a little bit. But I kind of over time have come to really enjoy change. And so, but it really happened when I started shifting the way I looked at change, and I really began to understand the power of acceptance. So I'm going to tell you, of course, I went and looked up what acceptance was, and it's the consent to receive or undertake something offered. So a person offers you something, you can accept it, or life offers you something and you can accept it. Hey, Pauline, nice to see you. So, sometimes, how many of you have had life come down your street and provide you with an offer that you didn't really say, I did not ask for this, right? And or a situation came up and you were like, that was not what was planned, that was not what it was expected. I actually don't want this. How many have had those situations occur in your life? And for me in the past, I will be very candid. Uh, Thank you. Hey, Mike. Hey there. How are you? Is that Malika? Courtney? Hello. How are you? Welcome. So for me in the past, I'll tell you, I was kind of the person that change would happen and I would swim against it. I would go against it because I loved control. And what would really happen was I would end up exhausted. I would end up fighting. I would end up doing all sorts of things. I love it. My life. I would end up doing all sorts of things, but sitting in acceptance. And what I really began to notice was because I wasn't willing to accept, I was spending a lot of time trying to control things that were not mine to control. How many of you have had that happen? So remember, I said, I'm not the avoider. I'm not, well, at least I thought so. I'm the take action, but sometimes taking action can be just avoiding change, right? Because I'm in action, but I'm in action fighting against what's coming, right? So I'm not accepting what life is offering me. I'm actually fighting against it, pushing it away. So there's many ways that people don't actually get into acceptance. Now, as I started doing this whole, thinking about mindset mastery, and mindset mastery is basically mastering your mind so that you powerfully choose rather than react to situations. So when I started looking at this, I began to realize that this whole process of acceptance was one of the most powerful things I could do because it gave me access to something new. So, in order for that to happen, I had to really look at and understand what it means to accept. And we had some really good definitions, right? I love Dawn's when she said allowing, replacing resistance, and being open to possibility. Dawn, that's a great definition because it really hits the mark. So, to me, to accept is to surrender to the what's so. I'm going to say that again. It's to surrender to the what's so. And some people think that surrender means giving up. Surrender does not mean to give up. Surrender doesn't even mean agreement. Surrender doesn't even mean wanting something. Surrender just means something has been presented to you by life and you accept it. Simple. Just like that, you accept it. Now, what I began to realize was the whole act of acceptance was for me to give up, and I get this, and I want you guys to really get this. It was for me to give up shame, blame, guilt, judgment, and the stories that I make up about an event, what life dished me, where I am. It is really to take an inventory of where I am in life and just accept it. No shame, blame, judgment, guilt, none of that. Now, this is the thing. That's often really hard. That is really a conditioning of the mind because most of us, when life dishes us up something that we don't like, or we put ourselves in a situation that we don't like, or something happened that we're all have a conversation around, the reason we have a hard time accepting it is because we go to blame and then we blame ourselves, we shame ourselves, we blame someone else. We go to guilt, and guilt is not a fun emotion. We go to anger, we go to frustration, we go to denial, we go to judgment, we go to all these different places. And it brings up so many different emotions that what we tend to do is we tend to back away and avoid the possibility of looking at something, changing a situation, or even embracing change. How many of you have done that? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I know I'm not the only one. Like we've got all these stories running in our mind that keep us from sitting smack dab in this is what life has given me, right? And I'll share for you really a great example of this. I remember when my finances was not where I wanted it to be. I was financially upside down, not in a good place, and my coping mechanism was avoidance. So basically, I would just avoid looking at my bank account. I would avoid balancing my bank account. I would just avoid. Yep. Don's like, yep, I've done that. I would just avoid. And the question was, why was I avoiding? Because we all know that avoiding doesn't make it go away. Avoiding doesn't make it better. It's not like you avoid it and it magically disappears. You're just prolonging the situation. I'm just prolonging the situation. But this is the reason avoidance was working. Because every time I would look at my situation, the emotions that would come up for me were so negative and so disempowering that I just didn't really want to deal with it. I had shame, I had guilt, I had anger, I had blame, I had frustration. I had a story about what I should have done, what I could have done, what I should have done better, who didn't do what. I had all that stuff going on. And all that did was bring up such negativity inside me that it was just easier to avoid than have to deal with all that emotion. Is this making sense to everyone? Right? So say just put a yes if you're following me. So I get it that everybody's cool. But that was what was going on for me. So then what I realized was acceptance wasn't that I liked the situation. It wasn't that I was laying down and just giving up. It was just surrendering and going, this is where I am. I call it is what it is. It's the what so. It was just it is what it is. This is it. This is where I am. And the moment I did that and I was able to silence the shame, blame, guilt, judgment. So for me, acceptance is to give up shame, blame, guilt, judgment, all the conversations that run you that don't serve you, just give it up and actually just take an inventory. So what I was able to do was I was able to sit down and actually just take an inventory of where I truly was. And suddenly I started fighting. I stopped fighting against life. I stopped fighting against my situation. And I sat in this very interestingly calm space called acceptance. And what was calming about it was that I had no emotion anymore. It was just like, yeah, let me look at this and let me just accept what it is. I totally surrendered. Now, this is what I didn't expect. Surrender is like a blank canvas. It's like an open space. It's like a big blue sky. It's just suddenly an opening appears. And there's nothing but what Dawn said, possibility. Because you are where you are. It is what it is. In that moment, this is what life is. And when you accept and surrender, all that's left is nothing and possibility. And so for me, as I sat in this beautiful place called acceptance, what began to happen was I suddenly moved from shame, blame, guilt, judgment, all those things that had had me sit in avoidance to possibility, to solutions, to ideas, and suddenly an opening and an access to change and new things and new possibilities. And in that, it shifted everything. Now, this was the cool thing about being open to new possibilities and being open to change was that what became available to me was almost like a new chapter, a new day, a new something, right? And so as I began to create solutions and look for solutions and generate new ideas, my life slowly began to shift. Now, this was the thing. I didn't have all the answers, but in acceptance, just the act of accepting became the start. It became the start of a new way of looking at things. It became the start of a new possibility. And solution after solution after solution after solution began to come up. And because I continued to practice this thing called acceptance, every time I would try something new, I would just sit in acceptance. It worked or it didn't. I would take the inventory. And then I would learn from that situation and I'd move again. And then I'd sit in acceptance again. I'd take the inventory and I'd move from that situation and I'd move again. And what began to happen was my life began to change at rapid rates because I was no longer procrastinating. I was no longer avoiding. I was no longer beating myself up for what I shoulda, coulda, didn't do. I was really just saying, okay, this is where I am and I can find solutions. I can create the change I wanted. And from that, from the place of acceptance, I started setting new goals. I started creating new ideas. I started trying new things. I started asking people for support, asking people for resources, asking people for different things. And then life began to change. Now, acceptance partners with another mindset mastery skill that is so important that I didn't understand it till I started practicing. So it was the skill or the principle of 100% responsibility. Now, when I say 100% responsibility, what comes up for you? Who just type? Let me know what comes up when I say 100% responsibility. What do you get? Who's who's got something? When you hear this thing 100% responsibility, what happens? What comes up? Right? For me, what came up was that I was responsible for what was working and what was not. Remember, 100% responsibility goes with giving up blame, giving up judgment. Yeah, absolutely, Tria. Not blaming others. It totally comes with just giving up. And what I really began to realize was if I took 100% responsibility, I was taking responsibility for what was working. I was taking responsibility for what wasn't working. Fear and power all at the same time. I love it, right? 100%. Yeah, it brings up a lot. But the act of taking 100% responsibility is like really just looking and going, I am accepting my part. Yeah, I am totally responsible for this. Now, when I first heard of this concept called 100% responsibility, I have to tell you, I was like, but wait a minute. I wasn't the only one participating in this situation. I didn't cause the whole thing. It wasn't all my fault. I instantly went there. And notice I'm going back into blame, uh, you know, judgment. And so that's where the first thing I went when to be totally honest, when I heard of this concept about 100% responsibility. And what it really means, it's not that there wasn't other people involved. It was that you're taking 100% responsibility for your place in it and the solution. Now, this is what happens when you combine acceptance with the principle of 100% responsibility. You move from being the victim of a situation to becoming the hero, the possible hero in your own life. You move from disempowered to empowered. You move from I can't to the possibility and I can't. You move from a place that is so not powerful to reclaiming your power. So for me, what I learned was first I accept and then I claim 100% responsibility. It doesn't matter who's else at the table. It doesn't matter who else is playing the game. It doesn't matter if someone started it. It doesn't even matter if in my mind I still think it's someone else's fault. That is irrelevant. What's relevant is this is where I am, accepting and surrendering, and I'm 100% responsible for my change, my movement, my growth, me getting away from where I am and shifting the situation. And the minute I began to do that, I realized that all that time that I was not in acceptance and I was shaming, blaming, guilting, all those things, was that I was treating myself like I was the victim of something. And I was really saying that when someone else changes, my life will change. When the world gives me a different answer, my life will change. When my boss decides I deserve a raise, my life will change. When this happened, my life would change. I was totally powerless. The moment I sat in this thing called 100% responsibility, what began to happen was I began to reclaim my power. And I began to realize that, yeah, I can find a solution. So it was 100% responsible. It was up to me, right? And remember, I said I can sit in responsibility and not like the situation. I can sit in responsibility and not be the only player at the table. I can sit in responsibility and not fully understand why it's happening, but it is. So it's really surrendering and accepting and really moving from that place. What has happened for me when I combine these two principles is that it also created a new way of looking at things. And this is the reframe. And this is the power of reframing these things as you sit in this place called acceptance. So now when I sit in a place of acceptance, I accept, so I surrender to my situation. I sit in 100% responsibility. And this is what I actually say to myself. I go, this is perfect. There's something here I'm supposed to learn. There's something here I'm supposed to grow from. There's something there that's shifting me. This is happening because it's time for my life to change. This is a gift. Now see how empowering those words are. So now I'm not a victim of a situation. I am saying that this situation is exactly what it's meant to be. And there's something I need to learn. There's a place I need to grow. There's something that I need to expand. Possibly I'm done with where I am and change is present. And now change is giving me access to a new way of being, a new place in my life, and a possibility of so much more. And so I look at everything like that. And as I've shifted my own conversation, acceptance has become pretty simple. Now, I will say to you that acceptance doesn't often happen like that. I go through my emotions like everybody else, my poor me, my why is this happening, my all those things, because that's the human part of me, right? That's my humanity at play. So I've learned to give myself grace and mercy. I don't allow myself to go into a full pity party, but I've learned to give myself grace and mercy. And that's the emotion of a situation. But once I've been through and I've had my emotional moment, it's now, okay, Suzanne, this is what it is. It is what it is. Sit in acceptance, take responsibility. This is perfect, and move, right? And move. So that's the beauty of that simple concept. Now, why I wanted to bring that to everyone, the Fit and Fab crew, everyone in our group, everyone that's listening, is that we are in a time where change is happening everywhere around us, and life is tumultuous at times, and life comes down our street and provides us with sometimes many things that we don't accept. There's people who are losing jobs. There's people who are having to get up and move unexpectedly, political situations, financial situations. There's all sorts of things that are happening at rapid speeds. Even if we look at technology, all these things are happening. And because the mind likes to protect us, right? The mind likes things constant. Acceptance is not the first place we go to. We react from the place of this is a threat. So part of what I wanted people to consider, I wanted all of you to consider as you're listening, is that possibility begins with acceptance. A new chapter, a new gift in your life begins with acceptance. And as life continues to evolve, and we're in a time where things are changing rapidly, it is those of us who embrace change and accept it and take responsibility for where we are in it that move quickly. And we move with the change, right? And sometimes we move ahead of the change happening. We're being proactive. But it really begins with acceptance. And I think the last thing I want to say to everybody that's listening is, we are not in a time like our parents where things change slowly. If you just look at technology, we've seen more changes in technology in the past few years than many of our parents have seen in a lifetime, right? And definitely more than our grandparents have seen in a lifetime. It is happening at rapid pace, and it's probably going to increase. And that's a sign of the time we're in. And oftentimes, most people's coping mechanism is to resist. I'm inviting you not to resist. I'm inviting you not to fight against it. And the example I want to give you is, consider life like the current in a river, right? The current flows in one direction. Now, you could get in the river and you could fight against it and swim against it and become exhausted and end up going nowhere. Or you could surrender to the current and really kind of go, okay, how do I manage in this current that's moving in this direction? How do I actually manage? And I always think of, as I'm going down, that there's things on the bank of the side of the river that I'll see that I can grab onto and grasp and that move me and help me survive a situation. So this is a state that we're in, and acceptance is our access. It is a beautiful skill. So with that, I am going to, I'm just checking any takeaways, any questions, any comments. I want to thank you guys for joining. And I see Sharia's talking about accepting her part. I love it. Not blaming others. Absolutely. And so this was the live I want to provide to you today. I'll be here every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. There'll be weeks I'll have a guest with me, and then the weeks I'll be teaching one concept, a concept that I've learned or something I'm in the middle of learning, or something I just find interesting. The goal is to provide everyone with information, and that is of value. That'll assist you in shifting your life, shifting your business, shifting and growing in the same way much of this information has assisted me. So next week, Pauline says, feeling very free when accepting kicks in. It does, doesn't it? It frees you up. It frees up so much of your energy. It frees up so much of your time. It frees you up emotionally. It is absolutely very, very freeing. So if this is a value to you, and I see a few people have also joined us. If this is a value to you, I'm gonna request that you share it with one or two friends. Who do you think would really be served by this information? That's the first thing I'm gonna ask you. The second thing is, part of what I'm doing is really inviting people to take on this work, and we're going to be dropping information and providing tips and tools. So if you want a tip and tool, all you do is write challenge in the comment section, and we'll ensure to provide you with a tip and tool. We'll be writing up something to go with this, so we want to ensure that you get that. And also, one of the things I'm doing with people is I'm in the middle of a growing health challenge. And so if this is you and you're sitting in acceptance around your health and wellness, and although you're in acceptance, you're like, it's time for change. No judgment. It is what it is. This is exactly where you are. It's totally perfect. But if you're someone who's sitting there and you're going, you know what, it definitely is time for change. I want to shift my health. I want to shift where I am. Also put challenge in the comment section. We will definitely ensure that we reach out to you, invite you to join our challenge. It's absolutely free. We've got some tips and tools and a community growing around that. Our commitment is to support each other in meeting the next best version of ourselves and to do it in a way that's sustainable. So, one of the things you'll learn about Suzanne is I like lifestyle changes. I do not like quick fixes. I'm all about shifting and changing and transformation that allows you to learn, grow, and become more. So uh, I'd love to have you join the challenge. Now next week, my guest is Mr. Kai Husband. You want to be here because if you loved acceptance and you love this conversation, Kai's going to be talking about the business of innovation. Yeah, the business of innovation. And this is really, I believe, one of the secrets to surviving and excelling in this time is really being able to move with ideas and the power of moving with ideas, the power of trusting yourself, your ideas, the power of having initiative. So definitely join us. We'll be back here 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Mr. Kai Husband. We're going to be talking about the power of innovation, what it looks like, why he's so excited about it, and why he's a project manager that focuses on innovation for companies, small and large. It is so good. Yes, this is food for your soul, Don. Thank you so much. And definitely share. All right, everyone, have a fantastic week. I will see you back here on next week, Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And yes, definitely put challenge in the comment section so that we know that you want to continue in this conversation. You want to be part of a challenge, whether it be around your health, whether it be around your finance, definitely around your mindset. Everyone have a blessed week, and I will see you back here next week. Take care.